It's Brian Storm, and this is the secret to deking. Controls and how to use them. This year, EA made deking harder in two ways. First, they had advanced dekes. Next, they made the deking stat actually matter. In previous NHL games, if you failed the deke, you'd be considered unlucky. This year, it's the opposite, because if your deking stat is under 90, you're pretty lucky to pull off that deke. I would only recommend consistently deking with players who have 90 or more in the deking stat. If we look through a bunch of these versus teams, only a few of these players on each team, primarily just the superstar players, are able to consistently pull off dekes, such as Johnny Hockey or Patrick Kane. You should only be deking with these players. If you're playing Hockey Ultimate Team and you know your player's deking stats aren't very high, I would just forget deking altogether. Thankfully, with Hockey Ultimate Team, you can build a superstar team for a relatively low cost. So do that, and then you can do some of the dekes that I'm about to show you guys. In this video, we're going to go over basic, average, and advanced dekes. Basic require minimum input. Average, you put probably an extra input. And advanced requires a bunch of different things to pull off. We're going to start things off with the one-touch dekes. They make a return from last year, whereas last year it was probably one of the go-to dekes for a lot of people. This year, I don't see it used pretty much at all. The way you pull it off is just press the left bumper or L1 and then move the left stick in any direction. Usually, you want to pull it to the left or to the right so that your player dekes in that direction. It's only really useful if you're trying to avoid a hit and you want to go towards the opposite side of where the player's trying to hit you. It doesn't go as far as last year, that's why it's not useful. Up next is the sweep deke. The sweep deke is used primarily with the right stick, but it's better when it's combined with the left stick. You start on the backhand, then move your right stick downward until you end up on your forehand. If you don't use the left stick, your player's just going to skate forward while doing this deke, which is why you always want to move your left stick to your forehand side so that your player moves with the deke and ends up actually making this deke kind of useful. It's very good doing it right in front of the goalie on a breakaway. In the past, people like to shoot off of it, but I also like it in this corner here where you're approaching the goalie from the side. Toe drag works a lot like the sweep deke, except it goes in the opposite direction. You're going to start the toe drag on the forehand and then go downward towards the backhand. Again, you can do one in place, probably more useful than the sweep deke. But when you move the left stick in the direction of your backhand, your player will actually go somewhere with the deke. It's good against players trying to poke check you, but you'll still get wrecked if they go for the hit. Up next are Spinoramas, which are simply done with the L2 or left trigger button. This causes you to do a spin, which you can then either shoot or pass in the middle of the spin. There are some ways that you're able to actually control which way you spin. If you have the left stick to the left, you'll go clockwise. If you have the left stick to the right, you'll go counterclockwise. You do have to give your player some time to reposition themselves, so you can't just spam it and always go in the same direction. I personally wouldn't shoot much with the Spinorama just because your player's accuracy is significantly lowered. On the previous generation of NHL games, it was not lowered, so it was a pretty cheesy way to score. Whereas the passing while spinning is actually pretty useful, because if you have a defender right here, right in front of McDavid, either trying to stop a breakaway move or in the middle of the passing lane, McDavid can spin so that the puck is behind him and then go for a pass to the right. It basically just creates some extra distance from the defending player to stop the pass from being intercepted. It's even more dangerous on the forehand side because this player has a bunch of different options. They can shoot, they can go for the breakaway, they can go for the one-timer. And it's all about pushing the defender back as much as possible so that the spin pass can have that distance that we just talked about to get to the recipient. So while the Spinorama itself is basic, passing with the Spinorama is definitely an advanced trick that a lot of top players use. Moving on to the average dekes, we first have the Windmill deke. And this is simply pushing the left bumper or L1 button and then the right stick in either the left or right direction. It's better used when your right stick is first towards the right or to the left and then you push L1, LB, and then go in the opposite direction. It just creates some more distance. The Windmill deke is usually used to avoid hits when you want to go really far to the left or to the right. Up next is the flip deke, not a very useful deke, but when you push left bumper or L1 and then up on the right stick, you get to do it. You simply chip the puck upward and then skate towards it. It's good if your opponent is spamming poke checks, but normally they'll see you do the deke and they'll stop poke checking just to pick the puck up. It's also really good against player goalies who like to goalie dive a lot. The off the skates deke works similarly, except with the right stick you go downward. Not a crazy useful deke in my opinion. I think it's mostly used to fool your opponent into thinking you're going to make a move. In the end though, you pretty much just skate toward him. And with a deking stat under 90, you'll probably just end up kicking the puck into your opponent's possession. Up next is the Datsyuk, then later we have the Zetterberg. You might think I'm a Detroit Red Wings fan based off of that, and you'd be right, except everyone else also calls these two dekes by these names. The Datsyuk works much like a toe drag, but before you can do that, you have to know how to kick your skate upward. You do that by pressing the right stick in. In previous NHLs, this was used as part of a breakaway maneuver that often went in, not as useful anymore. When you press the right stick in, then you pull down on the right stick to do the toe drag, then you can either push up on the right stick to shoot, or press the right bumper to flip the puck. Both moves are better used against player goalies than computer goalies. Between the legs makes a return from last year, except it's a little bit more complicated to do. You want to start with your right stick on your forehand, but pulled back a little bit. You push L1 or left bumper, and then with the right stick, you move it to your backhand. This deke is really useful if your opponent is pressuring you on your forehand, especially when you're trying to enter the offensive zone, you're hovering around the blue line, or it kind of looks like you're going to take a shot, but he's going to try to block it instead. You can then use the deke to enter the zone or get closer to the goalie. While there's a between the legs deke, there's also a between the legs move, which is done by pressing the left bumper or L1 and the right stick in at the same time. You can hold it down for pretty much as long as you want, and then you can shoot with it by pushing up on the right stick and aiming with the left stick. You can pass with it by pressing the right trigger or R2 with the left stick. Or you can do a saucer pass by pressing the right bumper or R1 button instead of the right trigger or R2. Similar to Spinorama, it causes you to pass the puck from further behind you to hopefully not cause the puck to be intercepted. My favorite thing recently, though, has been to pass the puck to the boards like this and then chase after it. Haven't done it too much, but it's very fun to do. And now taking a look at the saucer pass, the reason why you'd want to do a saucer pass is because your puck gets an extra elevation when you do the pass to hopefully bounce over someone's stick to get to the pass recipient. Up next are one-handed tucks and one-handed dekes. You can't just masturbate with one hand and then do the deke with the other hand. These moves require both hands, but the player is only going to use one hand. Starting with the tucks, these are finishing moves on the goalie. When you do it on your forehand, the finishing move is going to be on the backhand. If you go towards the backhand side, then your player is going to use their forehand to do the move. So all you need to do is skate towards the goalie on your forehand or on your backhand, and then push L1, R1, or left bumper and right bumper at the same time. Onto the dekes. The first one is pushing the puck ahead of you with one hand. I think it's the only stick-based deke in the game where it doesn't matter what your deking stats are because you'll always be able to do it. And that's why it's one of my most preferred dekes, because it doesn't matter who I use. The way it works is you push the right stick towards the backhand, push the L1 or left bumper, and then with the right stick pretend like you're taking a shot and just push it straight up. This causes the puck to go upward and you end up chasing after it. It's really good against players that are playing really aggressively. Up next are the juke dekes, which make your opponent believe that you're doing something, but you end up doing another thing. The first one's on the backhand side. We just went over how to push the puck forward. Well, with this one, you end up holding onto the puck and going along with it. The deke is set up the same way as the one we went over, except instead of going up to shoot, you just slightly pull it further up to about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. Whereas if you do it on the forehand side, your player pretends to drop the puck, do a little move, and then pick it right back up. Forehand version of this, not exactly that useful. Whereas on the backhand, you kind of have more options because you can choose to push the puck forward or go along with it. The last two dekes, starting with the tap deke, these are two-parter advanced dekes. Part one's getting the puck behind you and pushing it forward, and the second part is pushing it back toward you. The way it works is skate in one direction on your left stick, and with the right stick, pull it back on the forehand. Press the left bumper or L1, and then with the right stick, push it to your backhand, and then in front of you on the forehand. You pretty much do a zigzag motion with the right stick to accomplish this, and it looks really fancy. I don't think it's very practical, but it's great to use against player goalies. Also, if you pull it off in the middle of a game, your opponent's probably going to piss their pants. They're going to think you're some kind of legend. Lastly is the Zetterberg sweep, and it's very similar except going in the opposite direction, starting on your backhand. With the left stick, go in any direction and hold the puck straight on your backhand. Press L1 or left bumper, and then with the right stick, go to your forehand, pull down, and then back again to your backhand. It's all in one fluid motion, otherwise you're going to leave the puck behind you. Another deke that I don't think is very practical, because if I go into instant replay, the motion of this player is just going forward, which means he's susceptible to getting hit, and the puck just zigzags to his left. I feel like not only is this player going to be easily poke checked, but they can also easily get hit. That's why don't worry about this deke, and honestly, don't worry about many of these dekes. I told you guys how to use the dekes, but unless your players have a high deking stat, you might just end up giving up possession of the puck. Hope this video has been helpful and beneficial to you. I'll see you guys in another video.